Fade in. Interior, Wildcat's Den Motel, mid-morning. A heavy rain is falling outside. Murphy Law receives a letter addressed to him from the front desk with a Prometheus Labs logo and takes it to his room. After lighting a cigarette, he opens the letter and reads. His eyes grow wide with horror and bewilderment. What in the Sam Hill? The words, traces of human DNA, stand out on the letter. That caught me off guard and stumped me for a good while. I couldn't quite make the connection, but then it hit me. If this mold was part human, then where would there be enough bodies for it to cover half the town? Nelson Giacomo, you magnificent bastard. There aren't enough hells in the world for you to rot in. An expression of grim satisfaction decorates Murphy's countenance. That was no ordinary fungus. It was the remains of all those people who had been killed by the Chicago spirit at the lumber mill, still suffering, still being taken advantage of, long after they died. Giacomo mixed this human mold slurry into his bourbon and used it to frighten away all the other creeps and crawlies in the area, and he'd been doing it for 10 years. That lowlife. All of that for more power, influence, and profits. A tale as old as time. I'm about as far removed from a saint as you can get, but even my blood boils when I hear about someone screwing around with the dead, or taking advantage of people. Put the two together, and I'm as livid as a long-tailed tiger in a room full of rocking chairs. Dane had more than likely been in on it, and that girl I took in, Beatty Lawrence, I think. Well, after a little digging, I learned that her grandfather was one of the people killed at the mill. She learned everything long before I did and went all vigilante. Not that I can blame her. Giacomo then used that to get Lynn out of the picture so he could grab his territory. And that's where we are now. Hell, he probably knew who killed Dane and roped me into it just so he'd keep his hands clean. Speaking of Cyrus Lynn, I found out that he had been part of the spirit as well, and a rival of Giacomo's for the longest time. Used to own more businesses and property in the area than he did. But then Giacomo became the town hero for driving out all those spooks, and he'd been edging Lynn out ever since. Dane's murder was basically the last straw. Murphy begins to crumple the letter, but restrains himself. He irons it out carefully and puts it back in the envelope. This was the ace in the hole I'd been looking for. If Satansville was a powder keg ready to blow, then I'd just been given the detonator. I was going to give this to Lynn and tell him everything, and sit back and watch the fireworks. Nellie, old pal, you're going to regret ever making a fool out of me. Murphy pauses at a mirror, smiling at himself. Well, kid, I guess we're putting in overtime, huh? Murphy exits his motel room. Snap cut. Exterior, streets of Sadiesville, late afternoon. Sirens blare as Cyrus Lynn's people engage with Giacomo's. Gunfire exchanges, killing people on both sides. Fires spread, fistfights erupt. A few local authorities attempt to quell the rioting, but they are overwhelmed. A bomb goes off, causing a disused antique store to collapse. More shots are fired. People are heard screaming. Countless others flee in panic. More shots. Death is abundant. The fighting continues into the night. Snap cut. Interior, Murphy Law's motel room. Night. Neon lights cast a garish glow into the room, piercing through the blinds, searing scars on the man peering out. He is on his final cigarette. His stare hollow but resolute, his countenance impassive. Fire burns at his lips, and fire burns in his eyes, reflections of the madness he is witness to. Rain slashes against the world below, but does little to quench the flames. Crimson flowers blossom everywhere like a garden from hell. Whatever peace this town had enjoyed was broken, snapped like a rubber band pulled too tight. I didn't mind so much when Giacomo and Lynn were killing each other, But then the fighting spilled out into the neighborhoods, dragging all the poor schmucks who had nothing to do with it into the fray. Some stood their ground, even fought. Others wised up and ran while they still could. Me, well... Murphy issues a dense cloud. He notices a section of the window slowly being overtaken by black fungus. A sharp rap on the door diverts his concentration. He grumbles, opens his window, and flicks the cigarette out, then shuffles over to the door. Yeah, keep your pants on. He opens it, revealing Holiday. She appears livid with rage and slaps Murphy. That was for Monroe's. Cyrus Lynn burned it to the ground. I barely escaped with my life. Murphy rubs his face, stoically indignant. And here I thought you enjoyed trouble. Holiday attempts to slap him again, but Murphy catches her arm. They both glare at each other. Bastard! I didn't set fire to the place. If you're gonna unload on someone, why don't you try your boyfriend? And who started all this mess, huh? Who else could have pushed them into doing that? She flings her arm at the window. Murphy lets her go and walks casually to his hotel minibar, taking out a bottle of gin and 2 glasses. He fills them both. Don't think for a minute that I had any of this in mind when I came to visit your charming little hamlet. Whatever ooze was hiding underneath the surface had been festering there for years, decades, generations. I wouldn't be surprised if there was some Hatfield McCoy nonsense still floating around. I just shined a light on it all. He offers the drink to Holiday. She swipes it away and tilts her head back, swallowing it in one go. She then takes the second glass and empties it. Murphy gives her a sour expression and slowly pours another. His voice softens. Is everyone all right? At the Monroe? Yeah, most of them. A few people didn't make it. A lot of Nellie's men were shot trying to defend it. Did you ever catch Willie's killer? Yeah, she's in police custody now. Revenge for her grandfather. He was killed at the lumber mill, along with maybe 1,000 other people. Holiday stares emptily at her glass. Murphy refills it for her. I figured she deserved to know the whole story, so I summed everything up for her. Dane, the Union killings, the fungus, the whole kit and caboodle. She went through another drink before I wrapped up. Holiday shakes her head, disgusted and weary. They should invent new curse words for this kind of shit. What do you even say to that? Bottoms up? Murphy holds another drink up. Holiday clinks her empty glass to it. He empties it. She finally deflates, crumpling onto a couch. Sorry for blowing up on you, Hotshot. I guess we've both had quite a day. That's fine. I probably deserve it. Murphy pours himself one more drink, then finds a chair and sits down across from Holiday. You should find someplace safe to lay low until all this blows over. Leave town if you have to. Hell, I'm sure that any of the big cities around here would be glad to have a starlet like you in their nightclubs. Talent like yours could go anywhere. Holiday finally grins. Thanks. Maybe I should skip town. If Nellie isn't dead by this time next week, he won't be in any mood to pamper me. I hear that some kook built a castle out by Versailles. Maybe I should go there. Holiday laughs. I mean, Versailles. We locals pronounce it Versailles. Funny, huh? And how about you, Hotshot? Are you a rolling stone or a moss gatherer? Murphy smirks, taking a sip from his glass. I'd like to wrap up this whiskey fungus mystery. I'm not getting paid for it, it's just... there's some masochistic part of me that can't let something like that go, no matter how sinister or dangerous it is. Hey. Holiday scoots closer to Murphy, putting her hand on his knee. Hey, come on. Let's not talk about that. I'm sick to death of crazy stuff. Let's talk about you, Hotshot. I want to learn more about Murphy Law. Are you married? Murphy snorts. Only to my business. And there was never any... He shakes his head. Holiday leans close, noticing a forlorn glint in his eyes. There was. Or there might have been. Come on, tell me about her. I'll bet she was 10 times the woman I am. Murphy chuckles sharply and finishes his drink. It's a long story, kid. Holiday smiles and gestures around her. I'm not going anywhere. But we don't have to talk if you don't want to. We can just sit and enjoy each other's company. Forget about all the craziness going on in the world. She softly sings Blue Moon of Kentucky and grins, attributing it to her former nightclub's namesake. Murphy smiles, relaxes, pours himself another drink. Sure. Why not? Slow fade out. Snap cut. Interior. Murphy Law's motel room. Early morning. A police siren wails in the distance, waking Murphy Law. He is disheveled, groaning, hungover, and bleary-eyed, but staggers to his feet, blindly groping. He finds the bathroom, squinting as he turns the lights on, and goes to the sink, washing his face. When he opens his eyes and looks in the mirror, there is blood on his hands and arms. Close-up on Murphy's eyes, flaring in surprise. He whirls around and darts into the main room, turning the lights on, finding Holiday dead on the floor, a bullet wound in her chest. He spots his magnum next to her, carefully picking it up. A single round has been fired. No, I couldn't have. There's no way in hell. No! He paces around the room for a moment, trying to collect his thoughts. He hastily pours a glass of water and swallows it, then returns to the bathroom to clean the blood from his hands. He looks into the mirror again, shaking his head. Another fine mess a dame's gotten me into. Murphy reaches into his coat pocket, taking out a pair of crumpled latex gloves and puts them on. He returns to the main room, checking all the drawers and cabinets before looking through Holiday's purse. Nothing has been stolen. He carefully checks the door and windows, but they show no signs of being broken into. Finally, he takes a hand towel and carefully wipes clean every surface he has touched, or thinks he has touched. Another police siren blares past, but he ignores it. Finally, he stands, checking the entire room. He finds his coat and trilby, puts them on, then takes his gun. He pauses for a moment, standing solemnly over Holiday as he removes his hat. So long, Blue Holiday. Murphy leaves his room, locking it behind him. He passes the receptionist with a nod and hits the street. A fine can of worms I woke up to today. The way I see it, if I didn't kill her, then whoever did either wants to frame me or get me out of their hair for a while. And I can think of only one person who'd have it out for me like that. Of course, it's not like I'd be able to get anything out of the windbag. Maybe it's time I cash in on all that goodwill I built up with the feds. Hopefully all the goons are too battered and tired from yesterday's fighting to harass me. Murphy gets into his car and drives off to Wesson's hotel. In his peripheral vision, he sees the aftermath of a large-scale skirmish. Ruined structures, dried blood, a downed power line, broken windows, dead bodies. Some people fire at him as he drives by, but he speeds up, hoping to outrun the mayhem. He sees a stack of vehicles on fire in the distance and jerks his car to a halt, quickly looking for a detour. An object slams into the front of his car while something clings onto it from behind. Before he has time to process anything, the driver's side door is ripped off and he is forcefully removed by two powerful hands. Chris smiles at him. Well, look at what I caught hiding in the tuna can. Tough luck about your car, Dutch. Sometimes things just break. Murphy strikes Chris in the jaw, but this only serves to agitate him. Chris spits and hits Murphy in the chest. It feels like he is struck with a piano, breaking his ribs and completely incapacitating him. He is flung across the street and slams into another building before collapsing in a pile. Before he blacks out, he hears Beryl grumbling. Show a bit more restraint, my brother. Boss wants him hale and hearty like a Christmas party. Bah, it was just a love tap anyway. I know better. Murphy groans. the world grows dark and silent. Slow fade out. Slow fade in. Interior. Unknown location. Unknown time. Murphy slowly comes to. His chest feels like a great burning stone is crushing and incinerating him, and every breath brings with it a stab of pain. He is missing his coat, gun, and trilby, and is in a small, dim room, with the only light source seeping in from a door atop a small flight of stone stairs. Chris is standing at the foot of the stairs, while Beryl looms over Murphy, his arms crossed. He smiles grimly and waves as Murphy focuses on him. "Morning, sunshine. Boss will be here in a tick. Feel free to move about." Murphy attempts to sit up and is rewarded with excruciating pain. Beryl chuckles. "That's right, chum. You ain't going nowhere except on a gurney or an hearse." Murphy sighs. "They didn't kill me when they went after Holiday, and they didn't kill me when they jumped me earlier. I could only imagine what Giacomo had in store." The door soon opens, issuing Giacomo. He descends the staircase, a bag of popcorn in his hand. "Hello, Mr. Law. Certain recent developments have unfortunately changed the nature of our relationship and made it necessary to detain you. I believe it would be in your best interest to elucidate what precisely transpired between the time of our previous meeting and the present. From my understanding, you were to leave this town in peace. It has since been left in chaos." Murphy glares at Giacomo through bleary eyes. "You swindled this town, took those people, killed at the mill, turned their misery to profit. Then you used Dane's murder to carve out a bigger empire, while the rest of the town festers and crumbles." Murphy coughs. Giacomo takes a deep breath. "I have kept this town safe from horrors through ingenuity, resilience, and resourcefulness, Mr. Law. It's been peaceful for a long time, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else change that." Murphy spits blood and phlegm on Giacomo's suit. Chris and Beryl lunge at him but are stopped by Giacomo. No. It's all right, boys. It's fine. Everything's fine. Mr. Law just had a mild sneeze. No harm done." Giacomo removes a cigar from his vest pocket, lights it, and puffs quietly. A strand of smoke issues from his nose. "It's all perfectly fine." Giacomo forcefully grabs Murphy's right hand and presses the lit end of the cigar on his palm. Murphy grits his teeth, refusing to shout as his flesh sizzles. "See? It's fine. All is well and good." Giacomo releases Murphy and walks away, pointing to Chris and Beryl. "I want one of you watching him at all times. If he so much as sets a single hair outside this room, I'll skin you both alive." Chris and Beryl nod grimly. Giacomo exits. Murphy sighs, clutching his hand as he collapses and passes out. "Guess that was just an appetizer." Fade out. Fade in. Interior. Unknown location. Unknown time. Murphy Law drifts in and out of consciousness. Although he has no clue how long he has been down here, he estimates it's been at least a day. He has been given very little to eat or drink, and every action still causes his entire body to throb in pain. Chris or Beryl are always watching him, though he overhears bits of news from outside as they whisper to each other. The fighting has evidently calmed, though it is impossible to determine which side has emerged victorious. The room has several large crates, many of them containing Giacomo's bourbon. There's also a shelf containing mason jars, a drawer, stacks of moldy newspapers, a drain, and several empty bottles scattered about. Despite his condition, Murphy is planning an escape. He thinks he sees his chance when Beryl comes down the stairs alone. He places a tray of food on the floor and shouts up at the door, presumably arguing with Chris. Beryl turns his back and walks up the stairs, thrusting his head out the door. Murphy quickly gathers himself, ignoring the pain as he opens one of the large crates. He removes and hides the bottles and stuffs himself inside, closing the lid tightly. He hears two people walk down the stairs, grunting as they pick up a crate. All of them? Just the ones labeled export. Right here on the truck, if you please. The movers carry the crate across the room and up the stairs. They return and pick up another crate before removing it. Finally, they take the crate Murphy is hiding in and carry it out of the room. Ugh, it's heavy. What'd you expect, love? There ain't feathers and hay in there. Murphy grits his teeth as he's jostled about. Eventually, he's set back down. He hears another crate being loaded up before Beryl starts shouting. Oi, where's the Snoop? Chris, get down here but sharp. The Snoop's scarping off. Murphy waits patiently as Chris heads down the stairs. He vaguely overhears them arguing and panicking before they emerge. He couldn't have gone far in his condition. You search the perimeter and I'll scour around here. Murphy remains motionless as he hears Chris approach the truck.
At times like this, I'm reminded of something my old man once said to me. Do not stare into the darkness, into the ever-hungering void, for it will only stare back at you. And it's been pretty helpful advice. Kept me humble, grounded, made me understand my limits.
Chris removes several crates, opening and peering into them. He takes hold of Murphy's crate.
But every once in a while, if you're patient and show no fear, and if you stand your ground long enough, sometimes...
Murphy glares at Chris from behind the slits. Chris shoves his box aside and studies the interior of the truck. He issues a grunt and returns the crates to the truck.
Sometimes, the darkness blinks.
The truck drives off with Murphy Law. He breathes a sigh of relief and passes out again. When he comes to, the truck has stopped and the crates are being unloaded. He waits while his is set down and the workers leave, then shoves against the lid with all his might. He emerges, sore, bruised, and tired, but determined, and grins as he sees Wesson's hotel nearby. Murphy hobbles out, limps through the hotel entrance, and rings the bell, astonishing the clerk.
Hi, is Agent Wesson around?
Snap cut. Interior, Patino Hotel, Wesson's room. Late morning. Murphy Law is eating as Wesson paces around. Bandages are covering a few of his wounds.
I told Wesson everything I had learned. He took it pretty well.
Wesson sighs deeply, rubbing his face. Hell, that is some messed up shit right there. And I drank that stuff too.
No ill effects?
Well, the people of this town seem alright, relatively speaking. But God only knows how much has been distributed. It's safe to assume this stuff is worldwide.
Nothing we can do about that. But cut it off at the source and it'll die down.
Oh yeah? What do you plan on doing? Murphy grins.
Burn that distillery to the ground.
Wesson winces. Yeesh, you look worse when you smile. But fire's not going to do it. Hell, there was a blaze at the distillery a few years back, and all it caused was minor structural damage. You're going to need something a lot more potent.
Like what?
Wesson's face cracks into a grim smirk. Explosives. Murphy laughs.
I like the way you think, Wes. Let's wait till the workers clear out, then blow the place. Do you have that kind of ordnance laying around?
Murphy, I'm with the FBI. We have everything.
How about a transport? We're gonna need a lot of C4 to blow that place.
Wesson lets the silence hang for a beat. How about a hearse? Murphy snorts.
I'm not dead yet, Wes.
Murphy suddenly reconsiders, rubbing his chin as he nods.
Yeah, that actually might work. Do you have any body bags?
Wesson slowly smiles. Snap cut. Interior, Lincoln Continental hearse, afternoon. Wesson is driving through town. He occasionally glances in the back, where several body bags are stacked. The fighting has stopped, but there's still more than enough destruction to avoid or drive around. Suddenly, the vehicle stops. Beryl appears in front of it. Hold on, chum. What's your business? I'm just picking up some friends. Wesson gestures to the back. Beryl winces. You don't mind, do you? Nah, go ahead. Less work for me. Oi, wait. If you see a snoop running around what looks like Sam Spade, do us a favor and add him to the stack for me. Roger Wilco. Wesson waves and continues driving. He sighs once Beryl is behind him. That was close. We're almost there. Wesson continues driving. He eventually finds the distillery and parks nearby. He opens the trunk and quickly unzips one of the body bags, revealing Murphy Law. He looks at Wesson and grunts, still bruised and bloody. Murphy carefully extricates himself from the bag.
Remind me to ask for a cremation when I kick the bucket. You know how to set all this up?
Yeah, it's just been a while. Should be like riding a bicycle. How are you holding up? Murphy sighs. His face is a melange of twisted pain. He looks over at his burned hand, clenches his fist, and manages to stand.
Just dandy.
He helps unzip the other bags, revealing several bricks of plastic explosives. Together, Murphy and Wesson set the explosives inside and around the distillery. Afternoon gradually fades into evening.
Now how do we set this off safely without anyone disarming it?
Wesson hooks up a timer and sets it to 10 minutes. Like that. Our bomb squad usually takes 12 minutes to disarm these things. Unless Nellie's got some genius working for him.
Then we better move. You head back and get in touch with the SCP Foundation. Once this place blows, we'll have a whole slew of monsters breathing down our necks. I'll go find Giacomo.
What about his bodyguards? Murphy purses his lips, staring at the distillery.
Try and stay the hell away from him.
Wesson sighs, then reaches his hand out, wishing Murphy good luck. Murphy shakes it and wishes him the same. Wesson drives off while Murphy limps away. Snap cut. Exterior, streets of Sadiesville, early evening. The sky is growing darker as Murphy hobbles through town. He pauses to check his watch before continuing. Something above him catches his eye. He habitually goes for his gun, forgetting that it was confiscated, and darts out of the way as the object smashes into the ground. It is Beryl. Before Murphy can react, Beryl tackles him and pins him to the ground.
Slippery little thing, ain't ya? Normally I'd wait for me brother so we can both have some fun, but I ain't in too patient a mood today. He'll have to settle for some other sap. Got any last words, mate?
Murphy stares at Beryl.
Yeah, 9.
Beryl chortles and eases up.
Alright, let's have 'em.
Murphy grins, continuing to stare.
6, 5, 4, 3.
Slowly, Beryl's eyes widen as realization overtakes him. He whirls around, screaming, Chris! The heavens shudder as a massive explosion goes off, shockwaves shattering and scattering pieces of wood and metal and concrete. A conflagration bursts, lighting up the night. Beryl releases Murphy as he stares into the distance, where the distillery used to be. Nothing remains but ruination. Then the earth begins to tremble. Murphy slowly climbs to his feet. In the distance, creatures emerge from the rivers. Large humanoid wolves come out of the forest, snarling. Horned baboons shriek and flail as the barrier holding them back is destroyed. A large gorilla bear roars and charges into town, followed by a herd of misshapen deer, a panther running on 2 legs, goblins and gargoyles. Beryl panics and runs off, leaving Murphy alone in the chaos.
And Caesar's spirit, ranging for revenge, with 8 by his side come hot from hell, shall in these confines with a monarch's voice cry havoc, and let slip the dogs of war, that this foul deed shall smell above the earth with carrion men, groaning for burial.
Fade out. Fade in. Exterior, streets of Sadiesville, early evening. There is noise, and fire, and blood, and death. There are monsters everywhere. The roads are congested with people trying to drive away. Some of the creatures break into the cars, pulling out passengers and drivers. A swarm of devil baboons raid a restaurant, driving out patrons and workers. Goblins assault the post office, Lynn's Theater, and Holiday's favorite boutique store. Gargoyles leap and bound from rooftops, swooping in to attack, breaking anything they can get their claws on. Giacomo's limousine, filled with several of his associates, manages to get as far as the Licking River before a gargantuan eel with the head of a pig emerges, bites down on the vehicle, and drags it below. A bear gorilla is rampaging through the studio that Giacomo had desired. Chris intercepts the bear gorilla and fights it, but is attacked by a large humanoid moth. The moth grabs Chris' wrists, its touch burning and eroding Chris's skin. As he lets out a cry, Beryl swings at the moth, disengaging it. "Sod off! You alright, Chris?" "Does it bleeding look like I'm alright? That right bastard hit me with something caustic." Beryl looks around at the chaos. "Skyways is rightways, methinks." Together they soar into the air and hover above the town. "You know, brother, a thought just came to me." "Been a while since that happened, eh?" "Oh, shut your trap. I was just thinking that maybe Mr. Giacomo don't pay us quite enough to deal with a fracas of this nature." "That's funny. I was thinking the same. I reckon two upstanding gentlemen like ourselves could find greener pastures if we put ourselves to it. I hear Goldbaker Rhines might have a new opening." "Right, and we didn't exactly burn bridges when we left Misters Marshall and Carter now. Fellas like us got plenty of..." The brothers freeze as they spot something immense veering towards them. A translucent manta ray the size of a city block undulates in the air, its maw stretched wide. Chris and Beryl attempt to flee, but the ray snatches them in its mouth and flies away in silence. Murphy Law observes all of this with solemn apprehension as he makes his way through town. He notes that the majority of people targeted have either worked for Giacomo or Lynn, while regular citizens are generally left unscathed. He makes it to an abandoned school to rest, and sees a monstrous half-goat, half-man stalking around. The goat man charges at someone, impaling them on its horns before tearing into them with its hooves and teeth. It then notices a youth, one of Giacomo's people, and stomps after him. The young man desperately scrambles to get away, firing an empty gun. No, stay back! Get away from me! Help me! Help me! Mama! Murphy quickly steps between them, grabbing the young man by the collar.
"Get out of here, kid!"
He shoves the young man away, glaring at him. The youth snivels, nods, and bolts. Murphy takes a breath and stares at the goat man. The creature remains motionless. A collapsing building briefly draws Murphy's attention. When he looks back, the goat man is gone. Murphy continues to wander the town in search of Giacomo, trying to stay ahead of the carnage. He avoids a dog man and several gargoyles, turns a corner, and sees a figure slumped against a wall. Murphy cautiously approaches and recoils as he recognizes Wesson. A bubbling pool of blood oozes from his mouth, and his eyes are glassy and distant. Murphy solemnly steps back and stares. He notices a cellular phone next to Wesson, with the last call made to a Foundation front company. Out of the corner of his eye, Murphy sees Giacomo duck into an abandoned building. He quickly searches Wesson's body, finding his sidearm and taking it.
"Don't worry, Wes. I'll give it back when I'm done. Hope you don't mind if it's missing a few bullets."
Murphy pursues Giacomo, pausing briefly in front of a broken window. Inside is a trilby, which he takes, shrugs, and puts on. He then follows Giacomo into the building. It is dark and empty, but the flickering streetlights illuminate an overturned rug with a hatch underneath. Murphy opens the hatch, finding a ladder. He descends into a long tunnel, presumably dug during Prohibition, and follows it into the darkness. He briefly ignites his cigarette lighter but jerks for cover as a hail of bullets sizzle through the air. He extinguishes the fire and carefully gropes forward. The tunnel seems to stretch on for hours, and it becomes so dark that Murphy can no longer tell if his eyes are open or closed. Suddenly, he hears a crunch, followed by a blast, and something sharp claws at his leg. Murphy flattens himself on the hard floor, smelling popcorn. He feels ahead, finding several kernels scattered around.
Clever, Nellie. Very clever. You turned your weakness into a strength.
Murphy crawls on the ground, sweeping several kernels away with his arm as he slowly progresses. He eventually reaches a dead end and stands up, but is suddenly blinded by a searing flash of light. Giacomo fires at him, but Murphy fires back, hitting him in the arm and causing him to drop the flashlight. Murphy fires again, but Giacomo knocks the gun away, then punches Murphy in the jaw before following up with a blow to the chest. Murphy crumbles, gurgling. Giacomo retrieves Murphy's gun and hovers over him, pointing it at him.
It's a nice tomb, don't you think? So long, Snoop.
A click is heard. Giacomo sighs.
Oh well. Luckily, mine's still got a few shots left.
Giacomo points his gun at Murphy's head, but is incapable of firing. He grunts and curses, trying to figure out what is wrong. In the wispy haze of the flashlight, Murphy sees a black mold starting to form on the gun.
What the hell is all this crud?
Giacomo attempts to scrape it off, but the mold regrows and begins to spread to his arm. Black mold also rises up from the ground, gradually snaking its way up his legs. Murphy gingerly rises, noticing that the walls, ceiling, and floor of the tunnel are caked in black mold. A low, hollow groaning is heard.
What the hell?
Get off me, you... Giacomo continues to struggle, his calm demeanor overtaken by panic. Black shapes emerge from the floor and walls and surround Giacomo. Murphy takes a step back and gives a start as he notices a humanoid figure standing nearby, watching Giacomo. The groaning becomes louder, and the figure coughs. Giacomo struggles as the black mold envelops his entire body. He stumbles as the shapes grab at him.
Get off of me, I said! Don't you know who I am?
Murphy gazes at him ominously.
Actually, Nelson, I think they do.
He takes another step back as the fungus blankets Giacomo and the figure continues to observe. The groaning becomes louder. Giacomo flails, screams, panicking.
Murphy, you gotta help me, Murphy! Get these things off of...
He issues an inhuman roar as the mold seeps into his eyes and mouth. The figures converge and drag Giacomo into the darkness. His screams echo for several seconds, then silence. Murphy is left alone with the figure. His hands are shaking, eyes wide, breathless. The figure coughs again, then slowly turns around, returning to the darkness. As it shuffles away, it sings softly. 'Tis a sigh that is wafted across the troubled wave. 'Tis a wail that is heard upon the shore. 'Tis a dirge that is murmured around the lowly grave. Oh, hard times come again no more. 'Tis the song, the sigh of the weary. Hard times come again no more. Many days you have lingered around my cabin door. Oh, hard times come again no more. Murphy is left alone in the darkness. After a few seconds, he carefully backs away and heads down the tunnel to the ladder. He climbs, leaves the building, and returns to the town, where he sees Foundation vehicles and personnel arrive. Murphy breathes a sigh of relief. He notices a liquor store that had been broken into and wanders inside. He snags a bottle of bourbon, then goes outside and opens the bottle. Before he drinks, he pauses and checks the label. Murphy overturns the bottle and watches as the liquid pours out, returning to the earth from whence it came. Fade out. Fade in. Exterior, outskirts of Sadiesville, early afternoon. A mass evacuation of Sadiesville is currently underway. Numerous Foundation vehicles and personnel can be seen in and around the town. Multiple MTFs are currently working to contain the anomalies, while researchers are conducting interviews and administering amnestics. Murphy Law has just concluded speaking with Site-1022 senior researcher Allison Clay. He finds an isolated place to rest and reflect as he adjusts his trilby and lights a cigarette. As his face becomes shrouded in the smoky mist, a middle-aged, balding man wearing a suit approaches him, showing a UIU badge. This is Garland. Mr. Law, I'm Special Agent Ben Garland. Do you know a woman named Blythe Hollister, alias Blue Holiday? Murphy looks sharply at Garland. The smoke thickens around his face.
Yeah.
One of Cyrus Lynn's people just confessed to her murder. Said something about revenge against Nelson Giacomo. Thought you might want to know. Murphy silently reflects, his cigarette glowing in the dim haze.
Appreciate it. Hey.
He looks up at Garland, his voice softening.
I'm sorry about Wesson.
Garland mutely nods, pats Murphy's shoulder, and walks towards senior researcher Clay. Murphy is left alone to ponder. Item number, SCP-9643. Object class, Keter. Special containment procedures. The town of Sadiesville, Kentucky is to be evacuated, with all citizens subject to amnestic treatment. Instances of the anomaly are to be collected by MTF Delta 43, mold timers. Distribution of the bourbon, Foster's Own, is to halt immediately, with all products recalled and confiscated by the Foundation. Alcoholic distilleries are to be monitored worldwide for further instances of SCP-9643, with samples being destroyed or collected as necessary. Description: Item is a potentially sentient strain of Bedonia compniacensis that GOI-001, the Chicago Spirit, cultivated for the purpose of deterring various anomalous entities in eastern Kentucky. Utilizing the remains of deceased individuals and natural limestone deposits, GOI-001 was able to distill a potable fluid that trivialized or negated anomalous presence. Due to the quantity of individuals required to create SCP-9643 and its potentially aggressive nature, mass production is presently unfeasible, though tests to curtail this are ongoing. A classification to thaumiel is currently under review.
So, case closed. The Foundation steps in, mops up, chases the Chicago Spirit somewhere else, and contains the anomaly. And that's it. Simple. Yeah, simple. And I'm John D. Rockefeller. I felt the bile surging in my throat, fit to burst. The Foundation was a bandage on an amputated wound, more interested in studying a disease rather than curing it. Oh, they might evacuate the town, wipe a few bad memories away, see to it that the fungus was quarantined. But they won't bring rest or restitution to the dead. They'll be just another in a long line of millstones grinding down the masses for the sake of whatever pretense of virtue they're peddling. Modern-day priests sacrificing children to Moloch on the off chance their god might favor them. And I was the one who invited them to this rotten party. But what else could I have done? I wouldn't have been able to live with myself if I had just turned my back on it all. But can I live with myself now? Is anybody really better off, thanks to me? I keep thinking about that, thing I saw back there. He was singing, "Hard times come again no more." Was that some kind of futile hope or ward? Maybe it was just a desire born out of countless ages, a voice bent from toil that can only cry out to an uncaring world. Would I have been spared if he had known I'd been the cause of more rotten luck? Bah, what's the use in me getting lost in my thoughts anyway? I tell ya, there's something about this part of the country that grips hold of ya. Makes a man really stop and ponder his place in it all. Something powerful, incomprehensible, older than the Chickasaw or Shawnee or Clovis cultures, entrenched in the bones of the earth, like primordial gods whose rotted corpses form the mountains themselves. It'll creep up and overtake you like the night, or a thunderstorm, or...
Murphy suddenly feels something dull dig into his back. A voice calls out from behind. "Stick 'em up, copper!" Murphy jumps, startled, and whirls around, going for his gun. He immediately relaxes and grins as he recognizes the person behind him. It is a young man, red-haired, freckled, and friendly, his clothes trail-worn and his smile bright. He leans slightly to the side, supported by a cane. This is Fred.
Hey, Freddy. What the hell are you doing here?
Fred and Murphy shake hands. Just toddling around on vacation. I could ask you the same thing, Murph. You out here on a case? Murphy scoffs.
You don't know the half of it, Fred.
Oh, well, maybe you can tell us over lunch.
Us?
Murphy peers around, seeing a young woman standing shyly behind Fred. She is wearing a yellow summer dress and has long golden brown hair pulled back into a ponytail. Fred looks back at her sheepishly. Oh yeah, this is Cassie. She's, a very close friend. Cassie smiles and gently holds Fred's hand. Murphy notices and mirrors her expression. He removes his hat.
Is that so? Well, it's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Cassie.
Likewise, Mr. Law. Freddy's told me a little about you.
Not too many crazy stories, I hope.
Cassie laughs softly. That's a matter of opinion and perception, Mr. Law. Maybe you could offer yours over that lunch Fred mentioned. Murphy smiles.
I'd be honored, ma'am. My treat, of course.
Murphy, please. I insist. After all, I think I owe you a favor or two. Murphy gazes somberly at Fred's cane.
All right, Fred. Your treat. You ever tried burgoo?
I don't even know what that is. Murphy chuckles and leads the way, putting his hat back on.
Local specialty. Southern comfort food. I'll drive.
Cassie and Fred chatter as they walk off. Murphy half listens for a moment, but pauses as he catches movement out of the corner of his eye. He turns quickly, but the vague shape hides before he can get a better look.
Yeah, there's definitely something odd about this part of the woods. I don't know, maybe it's something in the water.
Thunder is heard overhead, and a gentle rain begins to sprinkle. Murphy looks up into a dismal gray sky.
The rain in Appalachia is the worst. It'll slash and sting you, rip you to shreds, chill you to the bone, drown you. It comes and goes when it pleases, makes the sky dreary, drains all the color out of the world. They say the sun shines bright on the old Kentucky home, and maybe sometimes it does, but not today.
Murphy solemnly tips his hat and turns around to rejoin the others. He walks off into the distance, humming quietly to himself. Slow fade out. Site 1022, November 3rd, 2025, 14:18 p.m. So that's it? That's all we have. She smiles feebly. SCP-3143 really likes to leave us a big mess to clean up, doesn't it? And the veracity of its account is highly questionable. We don't have any records of a Monroe's nightclub in the area, for one, nor did it explain why the fungus didn't affect SCP-4450, or itself, for that matter. But at least we found the anomaly, and it's out of the spirit's hands. Oh, and we finished our job early. Well done. Thank you, Raymond. Forgive me, ma'am, but that's not what I meant. What about those mill workers? What about them? Aren't we gonna do something? You're not that inexperienced, Ray. The containment procedures tell you how the Foundation handles each anomaly. See? She points to a section of the document. But, I mean, we're not gonna do anything for... I guess their remains? Senior Researcher Clay stands up, taking most of the documentation with her. The Foundation exists to perpetuate normalcy, Davis. No more, no less. And this, he holds up a document, is normal? Clay confiscates the document, smiling politely. To the Foundation? Yes. She walks out of the commissary, leaving Davis to sit alone. Junior Researcher Davis hangs his head and folds his arms, issuing a sigh. Hikers, played by Thomas and Hunter Morgan. Murphy Law, played by himself. Special Agent Wesson, played by Raven Wesson. Master of Ceremonies, played by Carson Bowie. Escort, played by Virgil Griffin. Blue Holiday, played by Blythe Hollister. Lou, played by Lewis Sanders. SCP-4450 Alpha and Beta, played by Chris and Beryl Gamble. Giacomo, played by Nelson Giacomo. Clerk, played by Beatty Lawrence. Mover, played by Kirk Judd. Youth, played by Harlow G. Thompson. SCP-8306, played by itself. Special Agent Garland, played by Benjamin Garland. Tourist, played by Fred. SCP-085, played by Cassie. With special thanks to the town of Sadiesville, Kentucky, Site 1022, the Unusual Incidents Unit, and you. Murphy Law will return in The Black Queen's Ransom.